Hi, my name is Shabana and I have a website called Meraki-X.com where I blog about different creative interests that I have. Today I'll be showing you how to make red velvet French macarons. They are definitely one of my favorite cookies to eat, but they are definitely a little difficult to make, so I will do my best to explain this entire process in great detail so it becomes easier for you guys. So let's get started. So I will start off by making the shells of the macarons and do the filling later. For the ingredients for the shells, you will need 2 large bowls, a sifter, 62 grams of egg whites, a smaller bowl, and most importantly, a food scale. The food scale is important for getting all these precise measurements, and you will also need 85 grams of powdered sugar, measuring spoons, 50 grams of granulated sugar, 80 grams of almond powder, 1/8 teaspoon of cream of tartar, which I got from Safeway, half teaspoon of vanilla extract, a pinch of salt, a little bit of red food coloring, and a piping bag with a round piping tip. So let's make these macarons. So I started off by measuring 80 grams of the almond flour. I poured this into a sifter and made sure I sifted all the clumps out, otherwise the shells will not form properly. To make this process slightly faster, I used a measuring spoon to declump the leftover almond flour in the sifter. I continued to add more flour until I felt like I had enough for 80 grams. After this, I turned on the food scale and slowly added small amounts of the flour to the bowl until the scale showed 80 grams. This step definitely requires some patience as getting the correct number takes a while. As you can see, I had to sift and add even more almond flour. However, getting these correct measurements are crucial for the macarons to work out, so taking the time to measure precisely is truly worth it. After I finally got to 80 grams, I poured this into a larger bowl and moved on to the powdered sugar. I did the same exact thing for the powdered sugar and sifted it until I got to 85 grams. Afterwards, I poured it into another bowl with the almond flour. I also did this for the granulated sugar until I got to 50 grams, but instead I just left it in the small bowl. Do not put the sugar in the larger bowl. Last ingredient to be measured using the food scale are the egg whites. Off camera, I separated the yolks from the whites and also make sure that the egg whites are at room temperature. I then went ahead and measured 62 grams of the egg whites. This definitely was the hardest to do as it was really difficult to move the whites around from one bowl to another, so don't lose patience for this step. It's now time to make the meringue. A tip I have is to make sure that the mixer bowl is completely dry and has no water in it, as it can prevent the meringue from forming properly. I poured the egg whites into the bowl and mixed it until foamy at medium speed. 2 to 3 minutes later, I added 1/8 teaspoon of cream of tartar and a pinch of salt and let the mixture continue to mix for about 5 to 6 minutes. While the mixer is on at medium speed and it looks really foamy, I started to add the granulated sugar 1 tablespoon at a time until all of it is added. A couple minutes later, I put in the red food coloring. Since the meringue is white, you will need to add a decent amount of food coloring to get that bright red color. A quick way to achieve this is by adding the food coloring directly onto the whisk attachment using a toothpick. The meringue will be ready when it has stiff peaks like this. Now, I mixed the almond flour and the powdered sugar together very well before adding it to the meringue. I quickly added half teaspoon of vanilla to the meringue since I forgot to add it while it was in the mixer. Don't worry, as this will not affect the recipe. Afterwards, I added the flour and sugar mixture in 2 batches and folded it very gently. Don't mix this mixture like cake batter as the consistency and texture will be messed up. I mixed this for about 3 to 4 minutes until I got the right texture. A test to confirm this would be to see whether you can write the number 8 with the batter falling freely from the spatula used for mixing. I then poured the entire mixture into the piping bag. Beforehand, I placed the piping bag into a cup like this so it would be easier to pour the batter into it without making a mess. On a cookie sheet set up with parchment paper, I piped the macaron shells onto it. I would definitely recommend using a macaron template to get even-sized shells, but I decided to freehand them instead. I did this by gently adding pressure onto the piping bag and letting the batter fill out from the center to form a circle. I made these shells about 1 inch in diameter and made sure to pipe them about 1 inch apart as they do spread. To get rid of the bubbles, I picked up the tray and gently dropped it onto the table a couple of times. Using a toothpick, I popped any more visible bubbles that I could see. I then let them rest for about 20 minutes until their surface felt dry when touched. Once they are ready, I preheated the oven to 300 degrees and placed them in the middle rack of the oven for about 20 minutes. Once 20 minutes passed, I took them out and they look like this. Make sure to let them cool for around 10 minutes. For the filling, you will need 3 ounces of cream cheese, 2 tablespoons of butter, ½ cup of powdered sugar, a piping bag with a round piping tip, a large bowl, and a hand mixer. I added the cream cheese, butter, and powdered sugar to the bowl. Using a hand mixer, I mixed this very well for a couple of minutes until creamy. It doesn't look like much is in the bowl, but trust me, this is enough for around 20 to 25 macarons. The filling should look like this once it is done. Using a spoon, I filled up the piping bag with the filling. To make less of a mess, I used the same technique as the macaron batter by using a cup. Now it's time to fill the macarons. I filled the inside of one shell with the cream cheese filling from the middle to form a circle. Then, with the other shell, I gently sandwiched them together, making one macaron. Make sure not to put too much pressure as the shells may crack. I continued this with all the shells until I had none left. This is how they look like once they are done. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video and hopefully you're motivated to make macarons in the future. In the meantime, go follow me at Meraki-X on Facebook and Instagram to keep up with more creative ideas. Recently, on my blog, I posted about a French cookie box I made for Mother's Day, and it is a great idea to make for your mom, especially during this lockdown. So that's all I have for the video today, and I'll be back with more videos soon. As always, keep being creative and stay healthy. Bye!